Rudy's here. Rudy's here, everybody. Hey, Bob.
Oh, hey, Giuliani.
Marie? Marie, listen, I'll be about an hour late for my keep the... Okay? What?
Sorry for the delay, but there are a lot of checkpoints coming out here. And just because I'm the former mayor, they don't just let me through. But I guess I should be thankful for that, and I am. But I'm more thankful that Bob is running again for Congress, because this is a really fine candidate, just exactly the kind of person we need representing us in Washington at a time in which the people in this district get a chance to send a message to President Obama, a couple of really important messages, and they couldn't come any too soon. One is that we're spending way too much money, that we've got to get control of our spending, that he's got to give us a realistic plan to save jobs, because so far everything that he's tried has been a failure, and all he wants to do is continue to perpetuate the policies that he's followed in the past. And I think that our economy can't stand any more of this. Stock exchange is demonstrating that every day. The president put out a plan a couple of days ago saying he was going to save jobs. Nobody believes the plan. So they're not investing in America, because the plan is just, I'm going to try to find a nice way to say this, warmed over spin. It's basically all the same things he tried in the past. The payroll, extension of the payroll tax credit, he's going to extend it again. Fine. Maybe a nice thing to extend the payroll tax credit. Didn't work for a year and a half. How the heck is it going to work now? Nobody believes it'll work. He wants to see if he can extend unemployment insurance. That's a very humanitarian thing to do. In fact, I don't necessarily oppose extending unemployment insurance. Not going to create more jobs. Unemployment insurance has been extended already, and all we've seen is a decline in jobs. So why would you think that extending unemployment insurance will provide more jobs? So I can go on and on and on, but I'm not. I think the stock market is giving the answer. The plan doesn't work. We need to send somebody to Washington who is going to send a message to President Obama that we've got to come up with a new plan. Somebody like Bob, who's been an enormously successful businessman, understands the private sector. Boy, that's exactly what we need in Washington, not another career politician. Not another career politician who doesn't have a new idea that I've ever heard, except repeating the same mistakes of the past. Also, I know the major focus for everyone is the economy and the lack of jobs, and the fact that the president has had the worst record in job creation of any American president in my lifetime. There's also the issue of foreign policy and the issue of Israel. And there's no question that President Obama needs to be sent a very strong message that he can't consider the Palestinian Authority and Israel as moral equivalents. We've made this mistake in the past, and when we have, we've always had tremendous problems. The president seems to consider that the Palestinian Authority should be given more consideration, more benefits, more concern than the state of Israel. And that makes no sense. I mean, there was an article in the paper today that, if you don't allow a Palestinian state, if you don't allow them to vote on it, we'll lose an ally. When has the Palestinian Authority been our ally? I don't remember a treaty with them. I don't remember ever there being on their side. I remember Palestinian terrorists killing Americans, but I don't remember Palestinian Authority being our ally. Nor, for the life of me, can I figure out what benefit there is to the United States to have a Palestinian state. Why would America want to create another terrorist state? Here's when you create a Palestinian state. When they convince us that they have completely conquered terrorism, and that they're not going to generate people in their schools that are taught every day to hate Americans, to hate Israelis, to hate the English, to kill Americans, to kill Israelis, and to kill the English. Why would we want to be part of establishing another terrorist state? We have too many terrorist states. We're seeing real difficulties with Syria and Iran. Why should we create another haven for terrorists? Palestinian Authority has to convince us and Israel that they can be peaceful, that they can accept the right of Israel to exist as a Jewish state, and that they can conquer terrorism within their own country and not be a breeding ground for terrorism. And you know, if we would stand up and say that clearly, precisely, and unequivocally, that would be probably the biggest step we could make toward peace, the biggest realistic step that we could make towards peace. A longer time ago than I'd like to remember, and when Marsha Kramer was only about 12 years old, I threw Arafat out of the United Nations. That was a long time ago. I think it was back in 1995, and I was condemned by the White House and the New York Times and gosh, everybody for doing it. And here's what I said. I said we were propping up a man who was a murderer, a killer, an assassin, and it was an unrealistic policy that we were following. Arafat had no interest in peace. I learned a lot of that when I investigated the case of Leon Klinghoffer when I was the United States Attorney. And we're making the same mistake again. Somebody like Bob can go to Washington with a clear head about this, rather than somebody like his opponent who has a willingness to follow, I think, anything the Obama administration wants them to do or say. I think it will be like a wake-up call to the Obama administration to have a realistic policy about the Middle East, particularly about Israel. Israel is our ally, not the Palestinian Authority. Israel has legitimate concerns with their safety, and the fastest way to peace in Israel is to be realistic and to be honest, not to fall for this romance of a Palestinian state, which until they demonstrate they can be peaceful, is not good for us and it's not good for the peace of the world. So I'm for Bob Turner. I hope that he gets elected. I think it will send a very powerful message way beyond.
All right, Rudy.
We are here today.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're giving me a little more attention than I'm accustomed to these affairs. This election has been reported by some as a referendum on the Obama administration. That it has now gotten far beyond Mr. Weprin or myself. It may be so. People in this district have the same problems as everyone else. Jobs, the economy. Will the national debt sink the social programs that we're all trying so hard to preserve? Will we sell out an important ally? All of these questions have been asked, and the voters can answer that tomorrow. I think it is a referendum in many ways. For me, I'm representing the Ninth. I'm representing the views of these people. Our constituents here are concerned about the basics. The bigger picture may be interpreted differently, but we have a job to do. We're going to get that vote out. We're going to win. That message will come through loud and clear tomorrow. It can be interpreted as anyone wants. But I have a viewpoint, and I'm sure you do. And we'll wait to hear what the voters have to say. Thank you.
All right, Bob.
I also love being in this. I love being in this district, right by where the U.S. Open used to be played, when they played it on grass, right?
Yes.
And this is a district that voted for me 3 times when I ran for mayor, once when I lost and twice when I won, and it voted for Ed Koch 10 times for mayor. How many times did Ed run? 3 times? 4 times.
4 times.
So this is a district in which we have a lot of friends. It's a district I campaigned in very, very heavily when I ran, and I think I know very well. It may be a majority or plurality Democratic district, but this is a district that votes, with their head, with who's the best candidate, what's the best statement we can make, what do we need right now. This is not a partisan district in that sense. And right now, I think everyone here knows we have to send a message that the Obama administration has gone way too far.
Mayor, are you arguing or making the case that David Weprin is anti-Israel, or that he's a guy who's been to Israel 8 times, he's an Orthodox Jew?
Well, it doesn't matter who you are, it's what your policies are and who you're going to support. And it seems to me that David Weprin will be just another vote for the Obama administration, whether it's on out-of-control spending, which he is a big supporter of, even in his record as a New York politician. Whether it's unwise policies, I believe this is correct, but if I'm wrong, you can correct me. Doesn't he support the building of the mosque at ground zero?
So does Mayor Bloomberg.
Well, I think that's wrong. I think they have a legal right to build a mosque at ground zero. I think they have no moral basis for building it, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the overwhelming majority of family members don't want it there. They don't want it there because it will hurt them and it will harm them. And if the people building that mosque really want reconciliation, you do not create this tremendous pain for people that are living with a tremendous amount of pain. I'll give you an example of how this can be resolved, and I don't really care what he thinks or what Mayor Bloomberg thinks or what even I think. I care about what the family members who lost loved ones on September 11th think. And of course there are a few that think the opposite, but this represents 90-95%. They feel that this would be very harmful and very hurtful. And they would like the mosque, if it's going to be built a couple of miles away. A couple of years ago, there was a convent outside of Auschwitz. The nuns had a right to have the convent there. Just like these people have the right to have a mosque there. The nuns didn't want to remove the convent. Some people were very offended by it. They said it just hurt them. They couldn't even describe exactly how it hurt them, but it hurt them. You know what the Pope did? The Pope told the nuns to move them. Told them to move that convent 6 miles away, 10 miles away. Because what's the point of hurting people that have already been hurt so much? Well, you tell me what's the point of putting a mosque right there. We know that the attack wasn't done by all of Islam, but we also know that the attack was done under the banner of Islam, distorted though it is. And we also know that people have been hurt in ways that we can only imagine and have nightmares about. So if you're for healing and reconciliation, you do not torture these people more in the way in which you're playing with their feelings. And this is another example of where I don't think Weprin is on the right side. I also think he's shown a tendency to support leadership. I watched his record, both in the city and the state, and this is a career Democratic party line politician. This is another vote for Nancy Pelosi. This is another vote for Barack Obama, probably 90% of the time. Bob Turner, you got an independent person. You got a person who isn't a career politician. He's going to go there. He's going to vote for what he thinks is best for this district. And on these things, he will send a strong message to President Obama. The way the people of Massachusetts did when they elected Scott Brown. The way the people of the United States did last year when they sent a very clear message, you better control spending. Can you imagine if the people of the United States didn't do that last year, how much money we'd be spending now? This president has already accumulated more debt than any American president in history combined. Can you imagine where we'd be if the American people didn't stand up and say, we've had enough with you? And you get a chance to do that with Bob.
Mr. Mayor, what do you think of, for example, today, the Weprin campaign has put out robocalls from Governor Cuomo and former President Clinton. But I haven't seen anywhere in any of his literature or campaign commercials any mention of President Obama. What do you make of that in a Democratic district like this, that the President of the United States has become a liability?
What do you make of it?
What do you make of it?
Well, I mean, it's obvious. They have Governor Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, has a high favorable rating. President Clinton, I think a lot of people still like very much. And President Obama has an approval rating that suggests that he's not going to be reelected. And his approval rating is about real issues. It's about his terrible record in dealing with our economy. Everybody knows he inherited a terrible economy. When I became mayor of New York, I inherited a terrible economy. But I wasn't blaming it on my predecessor 3 years later. I had largely straightened it out 3 years later. He's made it worse. So I think there's a reason for that. Bad policies. Bob Turner has a chance to change that.
Mr. Mayor, are you auditioning any lines for a national campaign here?
Am I auditioning?
Auditioning any lines for a national campaign?
No. Well,
Me either.
neither one of us are auditioning for a national campaign right now. But I'm here for Bob. I supported Bob, when he ran last year. I know Bob. I'm very impressed with him. I think this is a very, very high quality candidate, very, very good man, and somebody that will represent this district fairly and independently. And he'll be his own man.
Mayor, what do you think of Bob's promise to Ed Koch not significantly tamper with entitlement?
Pardon me?
What do you think of Bob Turner's promise to Ed Koch in exchange for his endorsement to not significantly tamper with entitlement?
Well, I think if well, again, you can first answer it, and then I can.
You made a presumption there that's just not accurate.
Okay.
My position on the entitlement programs were spelled out on my internet site. It hasn't changed. And what brought Ed Koch to me was that he could live with those positions. And it is protecting Social Security and Medicaid. So we never had differences to begin with.
I mean, this is all semantics. I mean, the reality is, whenever anybody talks about straightening out the entitlements, then the other side wants to say they want to take the entitlements away. But the truth is, if we don't straighten out the entitlements, they're not going to be there. They're going to be gone. And you know, I know there's this whole debate over do you call the Social Security a Ponzi scheme, which I guess Governor Perry did, or you say it's bankrupt, which Governor Romney did. So they're fighting over, is it a Ponzi scheme or is it bankrupt? Well, I don't know what the difference is between the two things. Here's the truth. If you are 45 years or younger, if we don't straighten out Social Security, you won't collect it. You're not going to collect it. That's not me. That's everybody that audits Social Security says that. So you got to fix it to save it. And it's much worse than Medicaid and Medicare. You got to fix it in order to save it, and that's what Bob wants to do.
Mr. Turner,
Mr.
the
Turner.
Democrats are painting him as Tea Party Turner. Are you?
Tea Party Turner. Well, Tea Party I think stands for text enough already. I can live with that. I don't believe there is a real Tea Party in New York, you know, but there's an attitude that I'm not, you know, ashamed of their support and help.
Mr. Turner, I'm with Univision 41 News. Visa Webprint and Campaign are claiming that you have no interest in pursuing immigration or immigrants. What would be your position towards the DREAM Act? They accuse you of being anti-immigrant.
This is a
Do you have
nation of
cutaways?
immigrants.
Nikki,
My
you have
mother was
cuts?
first generation. I think the charge is bogus. I'm opposed to illegal immigration, and particularly at a time where we have 9% unemployment. That is the only issue.
Great. Last question, please.
Mr. Turner, if you win, isn't it only a temporary job? It's a year and a half. What do you do after that?
Well, at this age, a lot of things are temporary, but I intend to run again in 12. I want to be in the fight. I don't know what the district will be called, but that fight might be even more fun than this one.
Thank you all. Thank you for your patience
Thank you
today.
all very much.
Thanks for enduring the heat.
Go get him, Bob!
Thank you for
All right,
doing it.
Bob.